Welcome to episode 2 of MONSTROUS, a podcast about a podcast. This episode is called Conversations with Arthur Kaoutal, and over the course of this I will explain how I came to be in contact with the former underworld Sydney figure and how our conversations have helped me to understand the true importance of the Hampstead Heath child sexual abuse case that hoaxed, of course, attempts to, I would say, undermine or discredit. I am, of course, at home. I'm an amateur. My name is Alison, and you will at times hear my old dog in the background. I don't edit because I lack the technical skill to do so, and the time as well. I don't really have either. As a full-time English teacher, things can get pretty busy. The first thing I would like to say, of course, and I was remiss in forgetting to do this the last time, is to say that due to the deeply disturbing nature of the details he discussed, I urge listeners to proceed with caution and strongly advise seeking prompt professional help should you be adversely affected by the details brought up, or that it might bring up for you memories of childhood experiences. So my aim here is to bring to hoaxed my skills as an English teacher, in particular, ensuring that we use textual evidence to support anything that we say, and the principles of research, where what is omitted and included is balanced, and that I'm not being like a bad detective where I've got my own preconceived ideas about things and then I only look for those things that confirm that bias. So, continuing on from last episode, I was in a bit of a state at the time when I noticed that Aussie Cossack, aka Simeon Boykov, had been arrested for daring to name a paedophile's name during a public appearance. And I happened to come upon a video forum, I think it was on YouTube, where Chris Coveries, who is a young man who attempts to be like the Sydney version of Real Rukshan, apparently maybe lacking some of the polish and style of Real Rukshan. But he goes around taking his camera and he videos non-stop protests and so forth. So I got onto this forum and I was spending hours trying to help average Australian men who were discussing Simeon Boykov's impending imprisonment for naming a paedophile. And I was kind of at my wit's end and thought, this is all I can do to make a difference. So I had collected a whole bunch of links to credible sources of adult survivors of child sexual abuse who had very serious claims, such as Fiona Barnett against politicians, and also people like Adrian John Wells, who is an adult male who has made a number of allegations against Scott Morrison. I tend to believe that adult males who claim to have been raped don't do so just for the fun of it. I don't think you come out saying something like that unless it has happened. However, let's press on. I was trying to draw awareness to this and wake up average Australian men, because I thought these men will wear a mask to keep their job. They will take a vaccination, or the second or the third or the fourth vaccination, to hold down a job to support their family, and there's honour in that. But I was very keen to see, or to hope, that these men would not put up with the knowledge that those people in power have been raping and torturing babies and children. And I still believe that this is the ultimate thing we all need to focus on to eliminate the evil in society, and that this will be the tipping point for critical mass in terms of the Great Awakening and overthrowing the status quo, which of course is the New World Order. It is the UN, it is the WEF, it is the WHO. Anyway, let's pause there for a minute. So I had been experiencing a variety of responses. I was really pleased to see some men who were real men, good men, and they would look at what I had posted, and they would come get in touch with me and say that they were absolutely disgusted, and wait till they tell the boys at work, wait till they tell the boys in the motorcycle gang, or this or that. And I got lots of former police officers, not lots, but a few, detectives, and a lot of really good men who took the time out to email me personally and say, keep it up, you're brave, keep doing what you're doing, you're right, this stuff does go on, wear a video camera at all times, don't go anywhere by yourself, don't ever talk to police by yourself, call me if you need protection, So some really positive responses. And then there were some really negative responses where people would email me and say, you fat fucking bitch, and this kind of stuff, and that they hope I died, and all that kind of stuff as well. And this was just in one night. And then Chris Discoveries, who was really behaving like a little twerp, a little peon, he blocked me and said that I couldn't post that information, which was real information. And that really, really annoyed me. I was very angry, very upset with Chris Discoveries. When I asked him, would he be going to Burwood Court to follow Aussie Cossack with all that was going on? And he said to me, well, will you pay for it? Will you pay me to do that? And I was like, yes, sure. I'll do a fundraiser. We'll work it out. Yes, absolutely. We'll get you a bus ticket. We'll get you an Uber, whatever it is you need. We'll pay you for your time. Yes, if you're claiming to be a journalist, we need journalists on this case to uncover what is the problem with naming a paedophile. Why is that such a big ticket item? And he could have gathered momentum. Anyhow, he blocked me. I wrote him a very stern email telling him what I thought about him, and I will continue to protest against anyone who tries to, keep the light out from these things, because this needs the light. And if you are claiming to be someone there to illuminate things, then that is what you should do. Anyhow, so I thwarted in what I thought was good work. I revisited in my mind. I thought, hang on a minute. Now, there was something about that YouTube video that I watched where the little kids claimed to have been part of a satanic ritual abuse, and then they recanted. That it was a link on YouTube, and I thought, there's more to it. I know there's more to it. Let's revisit it. So I was in a Hills forum, and I just put in a message saying, if anybody has any more information or links about this Hampstead Heath case, I'd really appreciate it. And within about a minute, this name appeared. There was about 5 names. I can't pronounce the name still, but it was an exotic name. And they came along and posted this link and said, here you go. And the name was something like Arthur Charbel Kaoutal El Hawayak. Anyhow, it was a very original name that I didn't expect to really be posting in the Hills forum. So he gave me this link that was about 2.5 hours long, and it was the children whistleblowers footage, as well as Ricky D's, the father's disgusting BBC interview, and been put in chronological order. And so I watched that and said, thank you very much. And then back came this character saying, thank you. And there was something in his diction and his language that was very intriguing. It was archaic at times, and it was chivalrous, and very engaging. Something very engaging about this. So then it came back with this image that said friend request coming, and it was reference to Hebrews chapter 13 verse 2 rather, that said, "Do not forget to entertain strangers, for some have entertained angels unaware." So I became Facebook friends with him, and then the next day it came up on my Facebook saying that this 5-word named exotic individual was going live. So of course I clicked on it and saw this character who had a Celtics hat on, a big thick pair of sunglasses, smoking a vape that had like a blue little lamp light on the end of it. He was drinking some sort of massive drink in a very uncouth manner, like pouring it all over his face almost. And he was carrying a baseball bat round his head and sort of swinging it. And it looked like he was in some part of Western Sydney, and it was the Queen's Jubilee celebrations. And because during the time of the main protests, when we were going down to Canberra and so forth, more and more momentum had gained with SRA in reference to the 28 paedophiles and child sex trafficking and so forth. But to the untrained eye who might come upon this, it looked odd, and people couldn't understand the link between vaccination mandates, COVID, and paedophiles. And there's been many comments being made about people saying, like, this is so bizarre. What are they talking about? Why are they shouting out the paedophiles? As though it's something that, links obviously, and it doesn't. And it sort of discredits us in many ways. I've read a couple of articles that have made me wild when journalists claim to not understand why people like me are shouting out words like, down with satanic ritual abusers and that kind of thing. But in the screen on Facebook with this guy, I thought he was a parody. I thought he was joking because he started talking about the paedophiles, and in this way that was comically serious. That's his phrase, but it's perfect. It fits. So I thought, here we go. Here he is. He's parodying the likes of me, who's been out there, trying to draw attention to the paedophiles and the satanic ritual abuse. And as I continued to watch him, I thought, hang on a minute, what he's talking about is right. He knows what's what. He's got facts. This guy's talking intelligently about something he knows very much about. So I came to see, well, actually, maybe it's not a parody. And I remember typing at the time, like, what the hell? This guy knows what's what. This guy's on point. And he says I was like an excited puppy, and I was, because I had been feeling all this time, for 6 months at least, that if only I could break through to the men, the real men, if they could see what's going on, then we'd have a revolution. If people knew that Scott Morrison had rape allegations against him from a 40-year-old man, if we could get the gangsters and the manufacturers and the guys that work down in excavation and construction, and the Western Sydney guys who stood up, the men with the balls, who during COVID prepared to stand up, and I kept feeling excited about that, and then I'd be let down because it wouldn't get any traction. And here is a man who certainly looks the part of a strong masculine man who is saying no and trying to call out to people who should know better and should stand up. So I was very excited to find someone who was doing exactly what I had been looking for someone to do. Be a man, stand up, call it out, get the other men on side, make them understand. And he was very articulate. Anyhow, over time we became friends, and probably came to speak probably every day, every second day at least. And over time I've certainly developed trust in Arthur's insights, because I would ask him questions that other people I didn't seem to be able to answer. I'd been putting these questions to people time and time again, such as, what's everybody's problem with Aussie Cossack? In my opinion, he was legitimate. He's standing up against paedophiles. He's got balls. He's a man. He's using his own money to draw attention to what's important. And nobody could give me a reason as to why they didn't like him. So same with Ricardo Bossi, another man who had been standing up to the paedophiles, and yet they're saying, oh, he's a shill, he's a Freemason, he's this and that. Nobody actually had any good reason. When I asked Arthur this question, what's people's problem with these two guys? He said, as he often says, his favourite phrase, don't worry about that. Don't worry about Aussie Cossack. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about Ricardo Bossi. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about the vax mandates. Don't worry about it. That's not enough for me. So I'm saying, well, I won't worry about it if you can give me good reason as to why I shouldn't worry about them. I think they're good men. And so he proceeded to say that because they didn't have a Muslim profile and they were clearly Orthodox Christian, say for Cossack and Bossi, it says that our Father at the beginning of speeches and so forth, and that they were sort of inadvertently alienating non-Muslim audiences. And I was like, yeah, fair point, really good, makes sense, yep. And as Arthur has said, you've got to be ecumenical. You've got to include all religions. It's not about a religious thing. This is about what's right and what's wrong. And with or without religion, we know that as humans, and we've got to turn towards what's right. Be you Muslim or Hindu or whatever. And that accords with my beliefs wholly. And so as I came to trust Arthur, I asked him too about the Hampstead Heath trial. He explained to me a number of times that he'd been doing this a long time, 20 years. 20 years is a long time. And I said, well, what is so significant about this case? Please help me to understand it. I know it is, but I need someone to go through it and tell me explicitly. And what he said was that all other child sex cases, such as Fiona Barnett's or Rachel Vaughan's, have been historical because children repress things as a way to survive, as a way to cope. But this was the first time in history where children at the time of the abuse had been captured on film. It had been shared virally across the internet, and it had the establishment in total damage control. So these were credible child witnesses speaking about abuse that was going on now. And I would add to that too the fact that the children were so articulate, so precocious in their ability to describe things, to corroborate one another's stories, but also the fact that their allegations were current meant that, unlike, say, Fiona Barnett or other adult child sexual abuse survivors, they will always discredit those people. And part of the abuse has this deliberately designed impact, I think, where the child's psyche is shattered into many, many different parts as a way of coping, and they therefore develop, a whole host of terrible ailments, personality disorders, dissociative identity disorder, multiple personality disorder, drugs, alcohol, prostitution, gambling, crime, sex addiction, pornography, all of that. They go homelessness, poverty, suicide. These are the fates of most people, including my own. And so they're discredited as witnesses. one, it's a long time ago, so it's all very hazy and fuzzy for everybody. It's very difficult to get a court case happening in those circumstances. But also, you know, a inverted commas junkie or a prostitute, they don't make great witnesses because people don't believe them unfairly. So this is how we, got to be friends, and over time he's been a great source of insight. He has been around doing this for 20 years. In fact, just last night I was looking at some really interesting Facebook posts of some of the political protest work that he's done, and I still stand in awe of the man. I'm in awe of him. I really am in what he's done, how he's coped with the up and down frustration of thinking, you're making a dent and then realizing you're not. And I don't know how he's done it. And so yeah, it's good for me to declare openly and without bias that much of my intel has come from Arthur, and I'm very grateful for his input into this. I understand why it's a major thing, and our duty now is to hopefully, through dissecting Hoaxed, get other people to understand how big a deal this is, and let's hope that the two children at the centre of this, A and G, who are about to come of age, will be revolutionaries, and that it will expose the horror that this is.